105.5.
Hello, 105.5.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing great. How about you, Mike?
I'm good. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty with our live stream right now.
No such thing. There's no such thing.
I'm telling you, a character building moment here. Trying to get it connected to Facebook Live, and it keeps saying...
All about the branding, right?
So it says loading failed.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
So when you're doing your branding, I mean, everything you have to do is checks and balances. So I always live by the thing that's called inspect what you expect. Always be testing what you're working on. When your brand is going to market, does it work correctly? Are your branding logos lined up correctly? Are your hats ready? Do you have swag? What's going on in your branding? But before we jump into all that, I mean, it's literally summertime here in Sacramento. It is warm. It feels great out. I'm in a t-shirt today. It's been amazing, you know, getting out and mowing the lawn at night and spending time with the family and barbecuing, and just been fun. My oldest son just turned 14, and him and his friends went out in 103-degree weather in a full-on paintball war.
That's crazy.
We've been having mentorships at my house. We had a live personal weekend this last weekend where people actually stayed at my house for 2 days, and we went through all the new marketing tips and how to become an authority in your market and build your branding. So the summer's been fun. I mean, rolling out all the new stuff this year has been great.
Man, oh man. I love technology, right? It wants to challenge us this morning, so...
Yeah, we'll always win, right?
Yep, always. We'll move on to the next thing.
So one thing this summer that I've noticed is, you know, getting together with friends and family and even your customers. So what I'm kind of rolling out is we're launching this week with Money 105.5 and The Fish, I believe it's on, the birthday club. We're going to start celebrating all of our customers on their birthdays from all the companies. So from my ice cream shop to my silk screening company to the Now Academy to In the Now, I'm going to offer gifts to people on their birthday just to bring that community back together. So looking at that, it's like now's a time to start really spending that time with the people that you care about. And the same thing with your branding, you know, start spending that time with the customers who support you. Me and my wife just decided that Sunday nights there's no media and Wednesday nights it's family media, so that my kids and everybody kind of get off their games and kind of get together. And then this Sunday is my youngest daughter, 4 years old, will be July 1st. She'll be 4. And her princess party, Elena of Avalar, and, you know, Disney knows how to brand. She says to me, Dad, I want Elena of Avalar socks, boots, hat, bracelet, the sword, the wand. She's like, I don't want any presents. I just want all these decorations to become this princess. And she's been that way about everyone from Cinderella. So branding for Disney, they've got it. Every one of their princesses to their gentlemen. Who's their biggest guy version? Because most of it's all princesses, but there's always the guy in the story.
Isn't it Beauty and the Beast?
Hans, yeah, Beauty and the Beast, but I guess Belle sells the most versus the Beast.
Yeah.
Nobody dresses up as the Beast for Halloween.
No? Oh, man.
There probably are. But I mean, that's branding in its best form, you know?
Yeah.
So my daughter's birthday this Sunday our whole house will be Elena of Avalar, which means I'll be branding my house for these people. And they'll come in, everybody will recognize the brand, they'll see the brand, they'll see all the pieces and swag that goes along with the brand. And that's huge. I mean, when you're doing branding, it starts with your logo, which needs to tell the story.
But it's funny you say that because, you know, this weekend I was at the Sonoma NASCAR races, and the company that invited me out was this company called DC Solar. And so they gave us these tickets with pit passes and everything, and they have their brand on the laminate, and then like their T-shirt, they had.
It's on the lanyard.
It's on the lanyard. It's on the T-shirt. There was they had all their business partners and their employees. There was over 100 and something people there walking around with their brand, and then even a brochure of the race cars that they sponsor, Kyle Larson and Jamie McMurray, and they're all autographed, but their logo was all over. That even hand sanitizer, sunscreen, they thought of everything, even these cool little backpacks, right? These nice quality backpacks.
Yeah, that's an OGIO.
Yeah, and it's all DC Solar. And I mean, they went all out and created this experience around their brand. And it was pretty powerful because all the people were like blown away, and especially people that had been there for the first time, to experience NASCAR from that point of view wow, you'll never forget it. You'll never forget that brand.
Yeah, and they knew right then and there they wanted you to take something home with you.
Yeah.
They want you to think of them outside of just that event and that experience so that when you get home and you're using that hand sanitizer and you decide now's the time to put solar on, you're going to remember DC Solar. So looking at your branding, there's a lot of attributes that you can put together that people will remember you by. Now, I like to start with the story, the brand story. What is your why behind you? Why do you do this company? What's the main goal? So solar, they're basically trying to, I guess, lighten the footprint of the energy. So by putting this on your house, you're saving money, but you're also sucking less power out of the grid. So each one of these solar companies has a different aspect of how they're going to go about this and what they're going to do, but how their brand looks and noticing like the sun and the DC Solar, their logo, you know what they're saying right there because it says solar. Then you see the backpack and then you see the swag bottle. Everyone knows right off the bat and they're trying to remember that name because there's a lot of solar companies out there.
Yeah, one of the things that that they're unique is they're not like a typical solar company that does solar for houses. They actually have these portable trailers that are used for like the movie industry, mobile, cellular towers, and even Vegas has them all over for their signs. And so their systems are pretty cool. But yeah, their whole brand is about, that energy.
And they're using a unique value point by using these trailers that run themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not tapping into the grid. They're not using up a power.
Yeah, so it's pretty amazing to see, and it was experience. Again, I'll walk away talking about it for a while and everything that I enjoyed.
Yeah, they made a big impression on you. You even brought it to the show today.
Yeah,
and to make an impression on a marketing guy, that's huge.
Yeah,
if you can actually have a branding impression that one of us is like, wow, that's a great layout, then you're doing a great job.
Yeah, whoever's in their marketing is doing an awesome job, right?
It goes all the way from just the wrapper on the candy bar, to the sleeve the cookie goes into, to the little solar charger that goes to the phones. I mean, everybody has something different that their company uses for swag. Lately, I've been seeing water bottles. So people are calling our branding company and saying, we want personalized water bottles. We want to have our wrap around this bottle. So everybody's looking at what can they take away from this.
Well, and I think that's what a lot of folks in small business to large business really need to understand is that your brand is in all different aspects. You are part of the brand. Your logo is just not the brand. It's everything that you do, everything you represent, everything being consistent in delivering is important for the business to be, to create that brand image in the market.
Yeah, and when we bring guests on here to teach you guys these things, so if you look at our format, we're basically talking a little bit about what we feel good branding is, and we're going to teach you a little bit throughout the show, but really we want to bring on these guests that teach you what they've been learning for years. So today we have Sammy Blindell, an international branding and visibility coach. This is going to be a great guest for you, which we're going to bring on after the break, and it's going to be amazing. You guys are going to learn so much, so those others of you who are driving, just soak it up. Those of you who are actually sitting down, take the notes.
Yeah, stay tuned here on Money Talk 105.5. In the Now with Mike Driggers and Brandon Heights. We'll be back with Sammy Blindell, the international expert in branding. Hey, I don't know what the problem is.
Welcome back. Money 105.5. So, Mike, we have Sammy Blindell. Why don't you give her a big introduction? She's on the line. Give it to her.
Yes. Sammy Blindell's an international branding expert. She speaks all over the world. I'm always following her on Facebook. She's a good friend of mine, and I had spoke over in London at one point, and she basically took me to Sunday dinner. They call it over there Sunday dinner, and we had an amazing time. But she is just one amazing woman that's out there teaching with over 25 plus years in branding. She is the expert when it comes to international and national branding. So let's welcome Sammy Blindell to the radio station. Sammy, are you there?
Hello, I am. Hello.
Well, hello there. How are you?
I'm flipping awesome, thank you. And I've loved what I've been hearing so far.
Why, thank you. Glad to have you on here. So you launched howtobuildabrand.org.
I did, 4.5 years ago.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, so
thank you.
What was it that attracted you to branding? Like, what is it about it that you're so intrigued and you've built a whole international business around?
Yeah, it's one of those things. I kept looking at all of these experts that were building global brands, in information marketing, and thinking, well, I want to impact on all these millions of people as well. But how can I do that when I'm branding one business at a time? And it was just a limiting belief. I just heard the advert there that was talking about limiting beliefs. And it was whilst at a seminar, I was sat there partnered up with somebody, and we had to get into pairs to work out, if you were going to build a global business and influence on all these lives, what would you do? And so I gave a hell of a lot of attention to the person that I was partnered with. And then it got to my turn. I said, oh, don't worry, you won't be able to do this with me. And he said, why not? Tell me about your business. And I told him about what I'd done, and I built 6 companies, and, I'd sold 3 of them, and I'd done all these things. He went, I would love to know how to do that. I said, really? And it went from there. And I couldn't believe that actually, a lot of this information wasn't out there and that he didn't know. And as a result of that, my brain went into overtime. But that was at the same time that I was going through quite a brand burnout, I guess, because, I was making millions of pounds, dollars, and euros for my clients with a branding agency. And, obviously, every time I branded somebody else, my business was going back. And I'm sure that many of your listeners will resonate with that if you are exchanging time for money in any way. And I was getting really ill as a result, and working more hours and more and more and more. And it just got to the point where I felt, I've got to do this for me. And if I am going to impact and influence on millions of lives around the world, I'm not going to do that by working with one person at a time. So I took a brave decision. I sold my £7.8 million business for £1. I bought my freedom. I sold it to our operations director, so I knew that he would look after that company. It's still running now. In fact, he sold it to somebody else a while later. And I moved out to France, and that's where I really started to create how to build a brand to be the world's largest and most valuable brand building resource for entrepreneurs of purpose-driven businesses. And when you really get clear on that, I'm here to talk about the 6 steps to brand success, and that first one really is about the vision, Mike. And I know you and I have had loads of talks about that, how important that vision is. Yeah,
having a clear vision of what it is that the end result and what you're trying to accomplish. Now, explain to the folks, what is the difference between brand and branding? You hear that quite a bit.
Yeah, I hear that quite a lot. And it's interesting because my branding agency, that's what I focused on, was the branding, but really the cosmetic part. And what so many people, when they come to me, they say, I want a brand. And they're talking about a logo, and they've built no reputation. They're trying to badge a vehicle that doesn't exist yet, and it has no steering wheel, it's got no sat-nav, the exhaust's hanging off, and it's only got 3 wheels. And they're saying, I want to badge this. Yeah. And, so, I do a lot of education around the difference between brand and branding. And, I'm a simple girl. I'm a creative. I like to keep things simple. And as I'm sure your listeners do too. So the main difference that I've come up with as a really clear thing is that your brand is trust and your branding is the trust mark. So if you consider an iceberg, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the iceberg principle. You can imagine what an iceberg looks like. And if you look at an iceberg from the side with it being under the water, only 85% of that iceberg is under the water. You don't see it. You know it's there, but you know whether it's safe or not when you see that little part that's sticking up above the water. And that's only 15% of that iceberg is what you see. And that's exactly the same with your brand and branding. Your brand is trust, which is your reputation. You know it's there. You trust that company or that person, or you don't. But ultimately, the face of that person or the face of that business is what really distinguishes you from those other people. So it's about creating a brand, which is your reputation, and then branding it. So you've got the right face that's having the right conversations, which will create the right conversions. And too many people are creating the branding for their business based on, I'm setting up this business. Oh, I've got to have a logo. I've got to have a business card. Oh, I need to have my brand name. And I need my colors, and they're going crazy on the cosmetic stuff before they've even thought about what it is they're building. And that was a key thing for me. That's why out of the 6 steps to brand success, the first one is that vision. Because unless you really step into the future and understand where your brand is going to land. How are you going to impact on people, and who do you want to impact on? And when you're impacting on them, what do you want them to do next? Because each problem you solve creates a different problem. So the problems that you usually set out to solve when you start your business, they tend to evolve. And for those of you out there that have, built a business, no matter what stage it is, you've probably found that in that first 3 months that it's changed significantly. Because as you start, you're kind of creating things based on what you think customers want, and then you start to learn what customers actually want, and the business evolves. And then the branding hasn't been able to keep up with that. So, yeah, it was an interesting thing. And when I set out with the vision for how to build a brand, before it had been very much, right, okay, I know what I'm building, I'm just going to brand it. This time I didn't. I created a 100-year vision. I knew I was building something that was so much greater than me. I knew that if I was going to build something that could exist without me, that could live beyond me, that I needed to create something that could grow without me. And so that vision was incredibly important. And I'd encourage all of your listeners to really think, what brand is it that I want to expand? And what's going to happen to it? If you're building a personal brand, then that business is going to live and die with you unless you build some kind of strategy underneath you for legacy. So your products might be the legacy, or the business might be the legacy. If you're building a network marketing business, for example, well, then you're building something that has somebody else's brand on it. How are you going to really make your personal brand the mark within that business? You might be selling it. So it's really thinking about how you're going to expand that business and then branding that accordingly, but based on a proper strategy and a proper vision for success.
Yeah, you are 100% correct. I mean, when I'm working with somebody on a one-on-one level on our mentorships, I always ask them, like, what is the end goal of the business? What is your exit strategy? Because if you don't have that 100-year vision, like you said, if you don't have that 3, that 5, that 10-year vision, then you're just showing up to work. And now you're just working your brand.
Yeah, and probably getting paid a lot less to work more hours than you did when you had a job.
Yep.
Then, you're getting frustrated because, and this comes on to the second point within the 6 steps for brand success, is value. If you don't build your brand based on the values that you want it to stand for, whether you build that as part of your personal brand values or your business values, people are not going to value you unless you value it. And so many people just go straight into creating a business because you can. And I have a book called The 7 Reasons Why Customers Don't Choose You and how you can change that. And in that book, I really focus on, how you can build that brand, but actually, really deliver on those promises, because your brand is what other people say it is when you're not there. And too often people just focus on what you can do. Well, all throughout that book, I say just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I really follow, that principle through everything I do now. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Sure.
And I find that a lot, I call it brandalism when people do that. Yes, hashtag brandalism. Because it's frustrating. You're building a brand that's not really built around what you are building. And too often, many of the clients that I get called into for personal consultancy, much like you, is they've built something significant and they've built it all around their personal brand. So their personal reputation is really strong. And it means that they are in demand, which is great for the ego, absolutely terrible for a business that you want to scale. So then I come in and it's like, okay, we've now got to extract you from this and build a completely different approach to how you're going to expand this brand with your essence in it, but without you actually being in it. And that's quite challenging for a lot of successful business owners that then say, I haven't got enough hours in the day, I'm